I'm Sai. I do product marketing and I'm with Zoho Sign. But I'm not just going to be talking about Zoho Sign today. I'm going to be talking about Zoho Sign and Zoho contracts. And I will be sort of giving you an understanding of why these apps exist within the ecosystem and how you can use these to get your paperwork done. They're primarily apps that are for people who get paperwork done on a daily basis as bread and butter, but anybody can pick them up and use it because it's just that simple. So let me break the ice, guys. So I'm just gonna sort of spill the tea here, or at least tea-ish, as I like to call it. I'm gonna put up some things here, and I want you to take a guess at what this is. So these are search queries that people that led to people finding about Zoho Sign, and the reason here is that if you notice, there's Zoho Sign in the searches, but that is not what they're searching for. They're searching for how to log into their Zoho account. And that's because a lot of people are often just very overworked, very tired, maybe lazy, and they don't want to type down zoho.com. They would rather just go on Google and they just search for Zoho Sign in, Zoho Login, or whatever it is that they search for. And then that takes them to the login page. But thankfully for us, that ambiguity of having our product name be in that search query led to people finding out about us. And the reason I'm making this point is that imagine if people just don't have the time to log into their account by typing something in, the amount of paperwork that they would then be scared by when they get to work, right? It's just a sheer amount of paperwork that puts them off from doing so many other things. And when something as small and simple as being able to type in zoho.com to log in puts people off, then paperwork is something that they definitely would be sort of intimidated by, and that is what we're trying to solve here. And before that, I want all of you to understand, so the search queries that I showed you just now, these are all queries that happened before the pandemic, because ChatGPT wasn't a thing, AI wasn't a thing before the pandemic. So people used to go on Google and they used to search to find us, but now they just speak to their AI and AI gives them the answers. But ever since the pandemic happened and AI has come around, the way business has gone digital has been very, very different. Business is now done remotely and workspaces are very hybrid. People are sitting across different spaces. Some of them are working from offices, some of them are working from homes. And that just means your interactions are very scattered. And almost all experiences are digital and AI first. Very few people meet in person to get businesses done. As much as we have all of you here in Zoholics for us, we have customers across the globe who are tuning in to our live streams on YouTube. So they're all subjected to a digital first experience. So that's kind of how business happens as well. And everything happens across time zones and borders. The US has 3 time zones, maybe more. Three that I'm aware of. But if you take the globe, we've got about 25, 26 time zones. So everybody is an international business these days because of the internet, and almost all transactions take place across time zones and borders. That means a lot of things to keep in mind. And when you're a business owner, the primary thing that you need to know is to carry out your business, to execute your transactions. Everything runs on agreements, right? Everything is driven by contracts. You've got a lot of paperwork to fill out. You've got a lot of invoices to sign. You've got a lot of forms to fill out. And all of this requires signatures or payments for you to get going, meaning anything and everything needs to be formal. It cannot just be verbal anymore, because if it is verbal, then at the end of the day, if there's a dispute, it becomes a mess for you to take it to court and get things proven. And of course, because of that very fact, everything carries a risk, everything carries obligations, everything carries renewals. So you need to be on top of all of this to ensure that your business is done in a proper manner. And there's paperwork in every aspect of a business. So this it's not just your transactions that has paperwork. There's sales and marketing, there's admin, legal, there's finance, accounting, there's HR, payroll, IT operations, service, support, facilities, vendor management, and then compliance and audit as well. So everywhere you see there is paperwork, and you need to have somebody doing out this paperwork, and it's often what is considered as dirty work, and people don't like to do it. That's because they have their own challenges. Paperwork or contracts are scattered across the workplace. They're pretty much in every different part of your office space. There are different applications that you're using. You have customer data, you have business data stored across applications, all of which is being used for you to generate this paperwork, and all of it does not reside in one place. So you need to bring it all together, and it's often very repetitive, very cumbersome, very time consuming, which means you have room for error, you have room for people to get completely tired, and as a result oversee a few things, and that can lead to impact in the business. And again, since you're operating across borders, it needs to be time zone sensitive. You cannot be sending documents out when somebody's asleep and then expect them to return it to you in a few hours. And that can often, the insensitivity in terms of sending documents out at the wrong time can lead to lost business deals, and that really does have an impact. It adds up. And of course, if you're doing things online, if it's all going to be digital, then there is concerns of privacy, trust and security, and so on. And there is compliance, right? In the US, you have federal laws, you have state laws. Every time you cross a border, you have to worry about what the new state means for you in terms of the law. And if you're talking about international business, then you have laws across different countries. What's legal here would be completely illegal. What's accepted here would be completely unaccepted somewhere else. And these are just like some of the things that everybody has to sort of think about in terms of what implications they have for doing their business across borders. So if you think of all of this, like I said, it does really add up. And what it adds up to is the fact that you have a very low level of confidence in doing business deals online. So paperwork is one of the things that people often met over. It was one of the things people literally shook hands over and sat across a table and saw people face to face over. It is a very human thing for us to be able to want to do this in person, but because we're doing it online now and all of these risks that it presents, people tend to have low confidence in it. And that's what we're solving here at Zoho. We've always been a suite of applications that enable businesses to go digital. We've had communication tools, we've had chat tools, document drafting tools, and so on. And all of that allowed you to get this data prepared, get this data in a centralized system. But how do you go about organizing this data onto paperwork and get that done from the same system is what we're trying to solve here. Earlier, people used to do it by hand, but now you've got tools that you're using that you can get this done with. But if you're in an ecosystem like Zoho, it's good for you, or it's in your interest to have these tools be originating from the same ecosystem so that your data does not flow out and in, and you don't have any nightmares of integrations and stuff like that. So we have Zoho Sign and Zoho Contracts. Sign deals with digital signature workflows, and Contracts just deal with contract lifecycle management, which is in addition to the digital signature part. And what it allows you to do is end-to-end contract automation and management of all your paperwork within a single set of apps. Now, again, a quick show of hands. How many of you here pay for a Zoho One subscription? Wow. Okay, that's pretty much the entire room. Okay. I want you to keep your hands up because there's another question coming, and please put your hands down only if your answer is no for that question. How many of you here have a paid subscription to DocuSign or Ironclad? I see a few hands up, probably about 10 or 12. Okay. I'm sorry to make this joke at your expense, but that's your money being extracted. Right? Because you have Zoho Sign and Zoho Contracts that does the exact same job of DocuSign or Ironclad for you, that's included in Zoho One, and yet you choose to pay for these two applications in separate, right? So that's really what we want to present about. We want you to understand the value that you're getting out of Zoho One so that you can stop spending unnecessarily on other apps. I'm not saying DocuSign or Ironclad are bad apps. It's just that when you're in an ecosystem like Zoho with apps that integrate well with the rest of the ones that you're using, it makes sense to utilize them and make processes and resources be more efficiently used. So let's get to Zoho Sign. So what Zoho Sign does is very simple. It's e-signatures, and it's just made very easy. It's intuitive workflows that you use to get your documents signed. It's as simple as scanning a document that you have in the paper format, putting it out, creating a workflow, sending it out for signatures, and getting it all done. Right? You can use it to sign documents online. If you do it at scale, you enhance productivity massively. And it is legally binding because we use the public key infrastructure technology. And it is secure and compliant because we follow the rule of the law. We ensure businesses are compliant with the law that the provisions of the law that dictate how businesses must e-sign their documents. Now, what Zoho Sign by itself allows you to do is just everything that you need to execute agreements, like drafting agreements, collaborating with your stakeholders, automating the workflows that are required, verifying the ID of the people involved in the agreement process, and then getting them to sign the documents, and in fact, even collect payments. So we do have a field that supports payment collection, but that's just a nice to have when you're getting documents signed and you want to. But if you want to collect payments and get the finance side of things done in parallel, yeah, by all means. So I'm just going to run you through some product screens. Some of you who use Zoho Sign may be familiar with this, but this is just for the folks that aren't aware. This is what our dashboard looks like. It's very easy and simple to navigate. You've got your two main functions: getting documents signed or signing one yourself. Signing one yourself is very easy, so I'm just going to run you through the other one, which is where you send it out for signatures. So you have the workflow builder where you can add your documents either from cloud or from your device, and you have the option to be able to add multiple recipients, multiple documents, set the role of the recipients, whether they approve, whether they sign the documents, what else do they carry out, what other permissions do you need to grant to the recipients, do you have a separate note for each recipient, do you want to authenticate them because you suspect that their information might not be within secure systems and whatnot. And then you decide the deadline for how long they have to sign the document, and where do you store the document within your system, how do you reference it within other apps, and so on. Once this is done, you get inside your document. It's very easy to just drag and drop the fields of information that you would add to the document to collect information from them. And after that, it's just tracking. All you do is just wait for them to sign. You can send them reminders. You can set the frequency of the reminders. You can recall the document if you sense that you've made an error, and you can duplicate the documents, create it as a save it as a template, create forms out of it, and so on. And when it comes to managing documents, you have the option to filter it out. You can create lists with columns that you can decide that you want shown to you. And yeah, it's just something that at a very bird's eye level, you get an understanding of what sort of paperwork are you sending out, how much of it is signed, and what is the turnaround time, and so on. And we have reports to sort of get really on top of it as well. And if you want, so let's say you're an organization that has multiple departments, multiple users, and you want some departments to have their documents be segmented so that it isn't visible to the others, and the users within that department to have access to the documents at a very specific level. You could customize and create groups, roles, and permissions to do all of that and set it up in such a manner that is all properly fine-grained, controlled for you to have your hierarchy or structure in place as far as document access and control goes. The advantage of this is that Zoho Sign as an application is available across pretty much every platform you can imagine. You can use it on all web browsers. This makes it device agnostic, meaning you can use it on any device. But even otherwise, we have applications that run specifically on Android, on iOS, iPadOS, macOS, or Windows. And this is the real cherry on the top. This is where Zoho Sign really drives value for Zoho customers, because it is one of the most deeply integrated apps across Zoho and third-party apps. And we do have APIs available if you want to do custom integrations or you want to embed its functionality within your apps. Now, something that sets us apart, because I did make an expense at the expense of DocuSign users earlier, but a lot of people do ask us this question: what sets you apart from DocuSign? I know that you integrate with Zoho apps, which DocuSign does not do that well, but what are you really offering in terms of just being an app by yourself? And that is where this matters, because we do deliver trust services integrated with signatures across the globe. We identify trust services such as authentication, the signatures themselves, ID verification, timestamping, stamp duty payment, and so on. And we identify the key players in each of our markets, and we integrate with them so that it enables businesses to get multiple things done and establish trust in the way they go about doing their contracts. This way, the onus of having to prove the authenticity of the documents never really lies upon the businesses, but rather upon the justice system that is in place, wherein they cross-verify if things are in accordance with the law and everything is all good. Just to give you an example, this is in the US. We have something called dynamic knowledge based authentication, which helps us verify IDs for recipients. What it does is it takes some information from each of the recipients, like the last 4 digits of a social security number and some other information, and then it fetches some information from public records, which allows them to answer some questions, which only they can possibly know the answers to. This allows us to establish with a certain degree of confidence that it is in fact the person that we have sent the document to, and that their identity is not being impersonated or it is not being forged. And this is something that is already pretty commonplace in real estate and insurance, and we expect traction for it to go up in other areas of doing business as well. And similarly, if you're in the healthcare or the life sciences spaces, the FDA regulations are pretty much something is you can never cross. If you do that, you're out of business. And there are specific regulations in place when you're operating in an FDA regulated industry, even for document signing and storing electronic records and so on. And for that, they've got an entire 60-something page booklet of regulations. And we actually went ahead and modified the application to introduce a module that would restrict the usage of the application to confine it within the regulations prescribed by the FDA. This way, you can enable this. And if you're in an FDA-regulated business, you would be in compliance with the law. And even if you want to get audited, you can get all of this information from us as validation reports as and when you need. So this is really what sets us apart. And here's where I would say we really offer value when it comes to DocuSign, because DocuSign does have this as well. But the pricing that they charge for this is more than the pricing of the license in itself that you would be paying for them. Just to give you an example, $100 for your license, they would probably charge you 2 times the license base fee for just getting this compliance in place, because they think they're driving insane value in terms of compliance. They're saving you fines. But what use is it if you're not saving money that you're going to be paying in fines if you're going to be paying it at DocuSign? This is the way it is. So yeah, in essence, we help you sign documents across borders with confidence, and that's what we're going to be focusing on. And as you know, Zoho is pretty research and development focused, and we're going to continue doing what we're doing to enhance the way we deliver this experience for all of you. So I'm just going to give you a quick demo of how you can use Zoho Sign from Zoho CRM, because I showed you the screens of Sign. They're pretty simple and self-explanatory. It's really CRM where we can drive value. So if you see that, you would understand how you would sort of go about using this in your sales scenarios. So this is just a sample CRM that I've set up. And let's assume you're a CRM user and you have your customer data in your CRM, right? We have an extension for CRM for Sign that is available in the marketplace. You just go to marketplace, you go to Zoho, you would find the extension. Just giving you an example, sorry. If you go all the way down, you can see Zoho Sign, and you can even see Zoho Contracts. Initially, it would say install if you haven't set it up, or set up now. And you just have to set it up. It takes barely 2 minutes, no matter what the size of your organization is. And then you can go ahead and start using it. So I've already gotten set up, so I'm not going to show you the installation process, but I'm just going to get inside my contacts module. And here I have all my sample contacts loaded up. I'm not going to use the sample contacts, obviously, because they've got invalid email. So I'm going to go ahead and use a persona that I've created. So this is Barbara. Barbara is the lead recruiter at a staffing agency that I want to partner with. So I'm using my CRM to manage this relationship, obviously. So what is going to happen here is I'm going to first reach out to Barbara. I've already had a conversation with her on the phone saying that, hey, you know what, I want to get in business of getting talent recruited through your company. But before I do so, I want to sign an NDA with you. So do you mind if I send it over? And Barbara says yes. So in that case, all I would need to do is just go inside Barbara's contact, and I have this button that says send with Zoho Sign, which I click on, which opens up this nice little pop-up. Now it's going to ask me to add a document. I could use desktop documents, CRM documents, attachments, or I can import it from cloud. But I already have just give me a second. Yeah, I already have this Zoho Sign template set up in my Zoho Sign account, which looks. Just give me a second. Yep, this is what the template looks like, and I'm gonna send it out to Barbara for signatures. And as you can see, I have some fields here, which are pre-fill fields, meaning I would fill in the information from CRM onto the document before I send it out. So if I now go back to this and I select this template in this dropdown, it's going to automatically pull up the template, and it's going to show me all the fields that are the pre-fill fields, and it's going to show me all the CRM data that I'm supposed to map with it. Now, you can see that this is already showing the fields, so I'm going to go ahead and select partner client and company would be, just give me a sec. Account name, then partner name would be first name, full name. And this would be my name. So I'm just going to type out, I'm going to select contact owner. Then I'm going to select I'm going to give in my name here, Secure Sign 24/7. So this is the name of my company. I'm going to enter that down. State. So if I can just search for state, I can get the state, title. And then this is my designation. So I'm just going to put CEO. And yeah, I've now given all the information that needs to be pre-filled onto the document. And this is a one-time process. So you set it up for a template just once. CRM remembers it so that the next time you send it out from a different record, this information is going to be auto-populated based on what you're giving. Now, the recipient is automatically selected. I could add more recipients if I want by clicking on next and going into Zoho Sign. But I don't want to change anything because this is a template that I've set up with the workflow is all clearly defined inside Zoho Sign. So I'm just going to click on quick send. And what that does is it just instantly sends this document off to Barbara for signing. And I can click done and I can go to Zoho CRM and I can refresh the record. And if I come down, there is going to be the Zoho Sign documents field where the record shows. Right now, if I click on the record, if I go inside, I can find out that document is in the state of alpha signature, and there is an attachment which is the initial version of the document. Now, if I go into Barbara's inbox, so this is going to be Barbara's inbox, and so now you can see that Barbara is, there's a two-factor authentication system that I've set up. So I have to click on send OTP to send this to get Barbara to access this document. I'm just waiting on the OTP that I'll receive in my phone. So I'm going to enter the OTP. I'm going to click on proceed to document. And this is what Barbara sees. Everything is already filled out. And all Barbara has to do is just check on the box and come down at the very bottom. Dave Smith's signature is already there. Barbara's just got to sign it. So I'm just going to draw out a signature. And that goes there. And now I can choose to sign it with, so we support multiple forms of signature like physical signatures via USB, PFX files, and so on. I'm just going to click on Zoho Sign for the sake of convenience because that gives me the platform certificate with which I can sign. So if I go back into CRM now and if I refresh, this document is going to have a status that says it has been signed. So this says the document status is signed. If I come down, you can see attachments of the signed version of the document and the completion certificate as well. So yeah, it's as simple as setting it up and sending it out from CRM, and this can transform the way you do business in general. If you're using Zoho Sign with Zoho CRM, and if you're on DocuSign and you've had problems integrating with CRM, I think this is going to be a game changer for you. So yeah, with that, I'm done with my demo for Zoho Sign. Now, I'm glad to sort of introduce you to Howard, who is one of our champions, because they've been using Zoho Sign for quite some time now. And he's going to be talking you through how they've implemented Zoho Sign along with Zoho CRM and a couple of other apps. And, they're reaping the rewards of their implementation. So yeah, Howard, stage is yours.
I haven't said it here, Pat. Yeah, just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about our use case and the way that we've been utilizing Zoho Sign, which we've been using now for, I guess, 5 years or so. With Zoho Sign, we were using DocuSign prior, also sending out a lot of documents on a manual basis. To give you some background on First Choice, business brokers. So instead of selling houses or buildings like a realtor, selling businesses. Okay. And a big part of the business, when you list a business, in order for a buyer who's interested in potentially buying it, they need to sign a non-disclosure agreement. These listings, much again like real estate, on our websites, but there's a lot of third-party websites as well where someone can go and request an NDA on a particular business from all different business brokerages. But what we've done is we've set up integration with some of those third parties. Of course, we have integration from our own websites. When someone does request an NDA, it goes to our operating system called OMS, not that anybody cares. OMS then takes that information, API it over to Zoho Sign, auto fills in all the information for that non-disclosure agreement, sends an email to the buyer with a link to take them directly to our website. When they go to the website, automatically that NDA is set up in an iframe for them to sign. They sign that document, and everything that's occurring through this process is all being updated in our CRM. Inquired, NDA sent, NDA signed, so on and so forth. The other thing we found is a lot of buyers use ISPs, so your AOLs, your Comcast, your Gmails, and so on and so forth. A lot of emails go to junk and spam or promotions tab or social. So we have automations built in through workflows that when an NDA is sent, even though Zoho Sign has reminders, when an NDA is sent, if it isn't signed within a day, we have an automated email that goes out that says, hey, Joe, we know you requested information on this particular listing. We haven't seen that you signed your NDA yet. 3 days later, 7 days later, so on and so forth. Once they sign the document, an automated email goes out that says your NDA is in process. When the broker signs your NDA, we'll be sending you a confidential business profile with the details about this business. All of these automations are in place. We went from probably most of our agents and brokers, and we have 270 today, growing to 15 or 20 per month. We went from them having to spend an inordinate amount of time chasing people down. Well, you didn't sign your NDA. Did you see the NDA? We have a 93% completion rate on NDAs without having to pick up the phone and make a call. And when you add SMS texting to it, it goes up to a rousing 94%, but which is pretty darn good. And the people that aren't signing it probably don't want to sign it, to be honest with you. So we feel very, very good about that process. Of course, when we have someone who wants to sell a business, that in turn also, we use all of our documentation. A listing agreement can be as many as 70 pages. That is all housed in Zoho Sign so that we can pick and choose which documents we want to send out. Every state is different. Every state, a lot of times, even with the buyer NDAs, every state, even down to cities and counties, can be different depending on the laws in those areas. So we have all the templates preloaded. When we hire a new agent, or we sell a new franchise, we know and look at what the laws are. We preload all those templates for our agents and for our brokers. Like Cy was showing you, yes, we could send from CRM directly. We do have that same button, and you can do that. But to be honest with you, we kind of don't. What we've done is we created a custom module, we call it opportunities, where we have buyers that are coming in. I should have mentioned, when a buyer comes into any of the websites, our website, a third-party website, our operating system, which sends that information API'd over to Sign to send that, sends out an email with a link to sign that NDA. It also looks at our CRM and says, does this buyer, Howard Meltzer, exist with Sally, the broker, as the owner? We have tons of duplicates because we have tons of buyers that come, all these third parties. We got to be able to know that this Howard Meltzer belongs to this Sally. Howard Meltzer could be in there also belonging to Joe or whatever the case might be. So it's really important that when these documents get signed, they get attached to the correct record. Vitally important, because confidentiality is one of the biggest issues. If you ask any of the brokers or agents in First Choice Business Broker, they tell you our biggest competitor is the person sitting next to me in our office, not Sunbelt or Murphy or Transworld. It's the person sitting right next to me. So confidentiality is of the utmost importance. What we do with that opportunity I was mentioning is when a buyer comes in, and some of the third-party websites don't have integration. So basically what we've done is we've integrated, of course, our Gmail client with the CRM. When a buyer comes in from these third parties, it's typically with a notification via email. We create but the agent creates a contact record, a buyer contact record, which obviously is created in CRM. They go to the record, they click opportunity, it auto-fills in the buyer's information, and then they just click and find the listing number that they're sending the NDA for. They click a button, send NDA. That information goes back to our operating system, which sends out the email with the link for the NDA to be signed. All of these, everything I'm talking about also triggers, again, automated follow-ups. Hey, is this a business you're interested in? If if you are interested, would you like to move to the next step? So on and so forth. When we started 5 years ago, we probably were doing roughly 1,000 documents a month. Today we do upwards over 5,000 documents a month. And, one of the questions that they kind of asked me to, what would you say to people that are using DocuSign? I'm not here to sell you on Zoho Sign, but I'll say this to you. I'm the administrator. I manage all of this. We're sending 5,000 documents, and I'm going to jinx myself here, but we're sending 5,000 documents a month. I honestly, what are we here in May? I could count on one hand how many issues we've had with Zoho Sign. And when we do, the support is fantastic. It really is. And when we've asked for certain things, we want to be able to, for instance, be able to delete pages out of documents, which doesn't presently have. We recently met with Zoho Sign and the team, and they're in the midst of, not going to put a time frame on it, but in the midst of making that happen for us and for you as well. So again, that's our use case, and thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, Howard, for that wonderful explanation of your use case. I hope you really are able to understand as to how it can easily help you get your paperwork done at scale. And speaking of scale, I am not quite done with my presentation yet. So that's really where I want to talk about the next part of the presentation, which is what Howard's team has done is really understand where they were facing a challenge, which was execution of documents, and they managed to solve that with Zoho Sign. But when a business grows and it has multiple departments and you have different functions and you have 100-page contracts going in at scale, you start to realize that execution is just one part of doing contracts, and there's about 7 or 8 other stages associated with getting paperwork done in general. So there's contract authoring, you've got approvals, negotiations, and then you've got execution, which I just showed you using Zoho Sign. And then there's post-execution. You've got obligation management, you've got risk mitigation, you've got amendments, you've got renewals, and so on. So that's really where you start to think that, the contract management, if done in the way that you normally do, traditionally, with just something taking care of the drafting process, something taking care of the communication, and one tool for execution, when you have all of these separate, siloed, that sort of contract management does not scale at with growth. And why you really need to start thinking about using or unifying all of this is because you need to wonder how you're managing your entire customer life cycles. Of course, you've got your CRM, so you're kind of understanding where your sales pipeline is and how your customers are coming in and going out. But you also need to have all your agreements and contracts associated with them in a contextual manner. Now, Sign's extension allows you to do that from within CRM, but there isn't post-execution capabilities that I exhibited earlier. So how would you go about carrying out a renewal of a contract that you sent out? Of course, you would have tasks inside CRM, but how would you go about managing the risks within a specific contract, and how would you do that? And if there is any obligation that allows you to sort of make changes to the subsequent renewals that take place, how would you identify these, and how would you mark these off as checked off? So these are things that you really need to ponder about when you're using solutions, and if they are siloed, then it becomes a challenge. The problem here is that when these start to add up even further, with growth, the business impact starts to run really deep because you're spending a lot of money, but your contracts aren't being done in short spans. Like I said, your administrative costs start to shoot up, and the delay in the contracts being signed ends up with you missing revenue and renewal opportunities. And of course, you have these risks, which if you're not able to identify correctly, you may sort of lead to contracts breaking down altogether and business relationships breaking down altogether. And this all boils down to the fact that you are maybe not able to access the right information at the right place. So to solve all of that, we introduced Zoho Contracts, which is our contract management software. But the approach with Zoho Contracts is that it is intended as a wrapper that sits outside and around Zoho Sign and Zoho CRM, which offers pain relief to your growth engine. what it really does is the ability for you to streamline your entire contract lifecycle, meaning it's not just execution, everything that is around it is also taken care of, and your business risks are identified and clearly set aside for you to mitigate or foresee, and your overall governance of customer data and paperwork is improved. And with this, you are able to promote sort of better relationships within the company, within internal stakeholders, and sustain the relationships that you've built with your external stakeholders. So where exactly we are doing this in streamlining the contract lifecycle is that we are offering the tool that allows you to author contracts, get it approved internally, send it out for negotiation. All of this is not available in Sign. It is an add-on that comes with contracts. So you have the ability to negotiate, and then you have execution, which happens via Sign, and then you have the post-contract execution, which deals with obligations, amendments, and renewals, and so on. So I'm going to run you through some screens of what Zoho Contracts looks like so you can understand how you can pick this product up. So this is where we author and collaborate on the contracts. You have what we call Zoho Writer, the word processor that is used for building documents. We have that entirely sitting inside Zoho Contracts, so you can build out your contracts in the most beautiful and extensive manner possible. And then you have your approval workflows, which allows you to get these contracts internally reviewed and approved as well. Then you send it out to your external stakeholders, so your counterparties, as we call them, and you get them negotiated upon redline, wherein they're able to make edits on the document. And this is something a lot of people ask us about when we talk about Zoho Sign, saying we're not able to edit the documents, but with contracts, you get that, right? And you obviously have amendments which are available as annexures, meaning once a contract is executed and you want to add stuff to it, you can add more annexures or contract letters. And of course, you have your obligation management, which allows you to track contract obligations, contract risks at a later point in time, create tasks and set reminders for yourself, and have some sort of an analytical dashboard that allows you to get this done in a timely manner. Now, that sort of leads to governance, right? So you have better control over your data, you have better control over your paperwork, you have the reporting that you need in terms of what versioning, what versions of your documents were approved, what versions of your documents had more changes to them, what activity is happening, who's seeing your documents and whatnot, and a centralized audit system that brings it together, tracking every single step along the way so that you have the supplementary information to go with when you sort of have to go take legal measures to enforce it. So this is what the dashboard looks like. So it gives you all your contracts by status. It tells you what contracts you have pending, how many more you have to approve, and what sort of obligations you have with a calendar on the right side. And then you have the templates, which is essentially all your contracts, the agreements, the different 20, 30-page documents that you've templatized, that you've put inside this repository, which you can then initiate with your different stakeholders and parties. And of course, this is what the audit looks like, where you also have the ability to have a separate library for clauses, separate library for compliance, and you have your obligations listed out by different forms of sort of who is the obligation supposed to be carried out by, who is the counterparty, and what is the status of the obligation, and so on. So let me give you like a quick 5-minute rundown of what the contracts extension looks like from Zoho CRM, similar to what I did with Zoho Sign, and that would give you a big, sort of a better picture of how this works. So now let's go back into Zoho CRM, and once again, let's pretend that I'm Barbara. Let's pretend that I'm Dave, and I'm also Barbara. And so now that I've initiated a non-disclosure agreement with Barbara, and she has signed it, she's now I'm considering her to be my external recruiter. But before I go about asking her to do the job, I would want to have a service agreement or a recruiter agreement in place. Now, this is a long document. It's not an NDA that is just 2 pages long. So this document would need to be extensively negotiated upon, and we would need to set the terms right before we enter into this transaction, right? So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to contacts, and I'm going to open Barbara. And I already have a contract that I've set up. If I go to So I have an extensive executive recruiter agreement that runs for about 20 pages that I've set up with all the fields that would be filled in when I initiate this from CRM. So if I go back to CRM, and instead of clicking on send with Zoho Sign, now I'm going to click down on the request contract button. This button is once again the extension of contracts that you get by installing the extension within Zoho CRM, where I showed you earlier where you can install Zoho Sign. So when I click on this button, it's going to open up a pop-up, and it's going to ask me to type down the details of the contract. So it's going to ask me for the contract type. I'm going to pick the executive recruit agreement. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it ERA. I'm going to call it Zulker because that's the firm that Barbara works for. I'm going to leave this for now, and I'm going to select the contact, which is Barbara. I'm going to make sure the other details are correct. And this is going to be effective the moment it is executed. That is when it is signed, and it is going to end in a year. So I'm going to make that 1 year. I'm going to give data for this, like termination notice 30 days. I'm going to make it a renewable contract so that I'm reminded later on to renew it if I want to. I'm going to make the renewal type manual. I'm going to give it a 30-day expiration notice, and I'm going to give it a 90-day reminder notice. With this, I'm going to click on send, and this is going to, okay, so this appears when you have fields in CRM that are not really mapped, but we can map them later on, so it's not an issue. So when I click on continue, it's going to go ahead and start putting the one and one together to get the two, and get this data from CRM onto the contract and prepare the contract for you to send it out for negotiation. So it's just adding all the fields for which the data exists in CRM, and it's going to go inside the contract, and it's going to say your contract has been generated. Now visit on Zoho Contracts and just review the draft once. And if you are happy with the draft, you can go ahead and send it out for negotiation. So I'm going to click on view in Zoho Contracts, and this is going to bring up the contract that has just been generated from the CRM data. So you can once again see the document on the right side is opens up in writers within Zoho Contracts, and you can see that all the information has been filled in, and it is in the draft status, which means I have to fill out some information. Like, for example, I have to fill out the title of the executive. So I'm going to call Barbara my chief recruiter. So I'm going to enter that information. That automatically goes into the other field that is labeled the same. I'm going to sort of, let's say I'm going to give her a retailer salary of about $10,000 for a month, right? With this, every other field that is required is filled out. So I'm just going to click on draft complete. With that, the drafting process of the contract is complete, and it goes out for internal approval. Now, I don't have an internal approval associated with this document because I'm the only person in this firm as of now. So I don't want to approve my own document. So once I click on draft complete, it's going to ask me to send it for negotiation. So I can do this from here in contracts, or I can also do it to contracts, go to contracts, and I can do it from within contracts. Go to CRM and do it from within the contracts module in CRM. So if I click down, I can send it for negotiation from here and send it for signature once the negotiation is done. I'm sorry. It's done. Or I could do it from the window that I was operating on, which is here. And I'm going to click on send for negotiation. I'm going to be like, hey, Barbara, make changes as please. And I'm going to just send it out. So once I send this out, Barbara is going to receive an email from Zoho Contracts saying this person has requested for a contract review, and this is a contract they wish to enter into with you. And I'm going to that email is going to take a while to get to me, but I'm going to show you what the email looks like. So this is what that email would look like with the message that you add inside the field for you to click on and open the document and review the contract. So yeah, now we've gotten the email. So I click on review contract. And once again, there's another two-step verification here, so that information is not sent to somebody or accessed by somebody that is unauthorized. So it sends out a password right after that to the same email. But there is a possibility that you can do this via SMS as well. So once the password comes, I can enter it here, and Barbara can go about suggesting changes to the document and reviewing the document. Yeah, so now we've gotten the password. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it inside the contract window, and this is what Barbara sees when she sees a document. And once again, it's Zoho Writer, which is our app that allows you to sort of make changes to it. But with Barbara, she can add text, but it will all be added as suggestions. It would not just go in line as it is. So let's say I'm Barbara and I do not want to sort of, I want to get something removed from this document. So if there is, let's say, I don't want this entire section 409A of code because I'm just a recruiter, I'm not an employee. So I'm going to remove that. So now I've suggested this review and I click on finish review. And with that, Barbara's review is done. And if you, yeah, with that, this is done. And if I go back to Zoho CRM, you can refresh this page, and at entire time, the status field lets you know what is happening with the contract so that you can track it from within CRM without having to go inside contracts. So if I go down now, CRM would say has been negotiated, or it has, in negotiation, review received. And if I go back to contracts, I can basically just review this and finalize it. So I click on negotiation pending. I get this document. I see the document. I see that there's been just one change, and I can see what change it is that is there within the documents. And if I'm happy with the document, I can review it. Okay, I can see that, okay, this is how it is. I'm going to be like, all right, that's fine with me. I'm going to be marking it as negotiated, and I'm going to notify my counterparty. Now, this is a stage where contracts really adds value, because you're able to do this entire negotiation, which does not exist in Zoho Sign. And once this is done, the rest of the process is the same as Zoho Sign. So now you can go back to CRM, and instead of clicking on send for negotiation, you can click for send for signature, and the process is going to be the same as what I showed you earlier, and you're going to receive the document that has been signed. And from that, you have the post contract activities like the obligation management, managing your risks, identifying them and setting them down within contracts for you to basically act upon at a later point in time, and getting a better way of going about controlling your contracts. So this is really all there is there to Zoho contracts. So let me just finish up with my presentation. But I know some of you will have this question at this point as to why would I need two apps, or which of these two apps would I need? Because Zoho Sign is actually a part of Zoho Contracts. It is, like I said, a wrapper that is built on top of Zoho Sign and Zoho Writer, and it works with CRM the same way Sign does. And to understand that, you just need to really look at the functionality. So Zoho Sign is just digital signature workflows, whereas Contracts is contract lifecycle management. But where you would use these is where the distinction lies. Sign is executing paperwork, meaning it's only getting documents signed. Whereas with contracts, you can use it for authoring, negotiating, managing paperwork, renewing them, managing your risks and obligations. And who uses it also has a distinction. Sign is pretty broad in the sense that pretty much anybody within a company can use it, and pretty much any size company would want to use it to get all their documents signed. But with contracts, it's typically the in-house legal teams, the C-level executives, or people that deal with extensive documentation that find a value in adding it to their suite of applications. Just to give you an example, if you want to sign HR documents, you want to sign invoices and stuff, that's all documents that are set in stone. There's nothing to negotiate there. So that you would just use Zoho Sign to get done with. But if you have a service agreement, a partnership agreement, and so on, you would need contracts for you to negotiate the terms of the document before you get it signed. So the way we see it is Zoho Sign is essential for every business because it helps you get documents signed, and Zoho Contracts adds great value as your business scales at later stages. Yeah, with that, I would really say that both of these apps, being a part of the Zoho suite, do come with the exact same enterprise security and privacy that every other Zoho app offers. And something that is specific to Zoho Sign and Zoho Contracts is the fact that we have FIPS compliant HSMs, which stores the digital signatures. This is something that is extremely important for compliance when it comes to managing digital identity. And we also blanket all document data and customer data as sensitive and encrypt them in storage. In the other applications, typically it's the data that you mark as sensitive information that is encrypted. But with these two apps, everything is encrypted. That's just the way we operate. Something to leave you with before I get off the stage. This is a story about Rain for Rent, who are an organization based here in the US, but they also do services in Canada and the UK. So they got into Zoho through Zoho Sign and Zoho Contracts. So essentially, they were working with Microsoft Dynamics and Adobe Sign, and they found that it was difficult to integrate the two apps. It was very clunky, and there was very poor internal adoption, and there was a lot of downtime. And their sales executives had troubles with the mobile apps, and the lack of centralized information management made it difficult for them. But thankfully, they started using Zoho Sign as a replacement for Adobe Sign for the ease of use. And that led to them entering the Zoho One ecosystem at some point. And they've now picked up Zoho CRM, Workplace, and Contracts. And all of it put together, their estimated savings for a year is roughly about 400,000 in USD. So imagine the question that I asked you earlier about how much money you can save with DocuSign if you switch to Zoho and you're still paying with DocuSign. If you scale that up to an enterprise level, this is the kind of numbers we're talking about. So yeah, this is what their suite looks like today. They use pretty much every extensive, every app that we have in the system, and they leverage the Zoho One ecosystem extensively. And it has improved their sales productivity, it has made collaboration easier, and it has just automated all these time-intensive and cumbersome tasks that they had trouble with. So yeah, I'll leave you with this one quote. By 2030, it is estimated that you will be signing about 8 times more documents as you do today. And our hope at Zoho is well and truly to have that experience be powered by Zoho. All right, thank you.